welcome to ListLab. Today we are counting down 10 mysterious ancient discoveries that some believe were hidden, discouraged, or quietly kept from view. Were these finds truly suppressed? Or are there more grounded reasons they were restricted, reburied, or debated? If you are new to the channel, then subscribe for more calm investigative histories, and let me know in the comments which discovery you think raises the biggest questions. In 1986, archaeologists in Sichuan province in China uncovered sacrificial pits filled with bronze masks and statues, unlike most early Chinese artifacts. The faces, with protruding eyes and sharp angular features, appeared so distinct that they seemed to challenge established historical expectations. For some observers, the unusual style suggested that the discovery was not fully integrated into mainstream narratives for years. Alternative theories claim the masks depict non-human beings or remnants of a forgotten advanced civilization. Others argue the site forces a rewriting of early Chinese origins that institutions were slow to accept. Archaeological evidence links Sanxingdui to the ancient Shu kingdom and demonstrates strong regional diversity within the Bronze Age. The metallurgical techniques align with known capabilities of the period, rather than unexplained technology. What remains debated is the precise symbolic meaning of the masks and why the artifacts were intentionally broken and buried. In Mesopotamia, archaeologists have uncovered 7,000-year-old clay figurines from the Ubaid period that display elongated heads and reptile-like features. Their unusual appearance immediately provokes speculation about what they represent. Some claim these figures depict literal reptilian beings or non-human rulers who influenced early civilization. The suppression narrative argues such imagery is rarely highlighted because it complicates familiar origin stories. These figurines are frequently referenced in ancient alien discussions as evidence of something beyond humanity. Archaeological interpretation places them within ritual and symbolic traditions common in prehistoric art. Stylized features may reflect masks, spiritual identity, or artistic convention rather than biology. What remains uncertain is the precise meaning the makers intended, because no written explanation survives from that period. In 1961, 3 clay tablets bearing incised symbols were reported from the site of Hureyra in Romania. Some researchers place their context around 5300 BC, raising the possibility that they predate the earliest writing in Mesopotamia. This dating fuels the claim that European civilization developed writing earlier than traditionally accepted. Online narratives expand this into stories of an advanced Old Europe civilization or exaggerated Tartarian empires. The suppression angle suggests institutions would resist altering the established origin story of literacy. Scholars debate the discovery context and question whether the symbols represent writing at all. The markings may instead reflect ritual signs or ownership indicators. What remains uncertain is whether the tablets encode language, leaving the earliest writing question unresolved. At the site of Abu Hureyra in Syria, researchers have identified material showing evidence of extreme heat dating to around 10,800 BC. The presence of melt glass suggests exposure to temperatures higher than typical settlement fires. Supporters of the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis argue that a cosmic airburst or impact event triggered sudden environmental change. Some extend this theory into claims of a lost Ice Age civilization destroyed in a global catastrophe. The suppression narrative claims such evidence would force a dramatic rewrite of early human history. Critics note that the impact hypothesis remains debated and that replication of findings across sites is inconsistent. There is no confirmed evidence of an advanced civilization erased at that time. What remains uncertain is whether the melt layers reflect a regional event or part of a wider global phenomenon. In central Turkey, the underground city of Derinkuyu extends through multiple levels, carved into soft volcanic rock. It was capable of sheltering thousands, complete with ventilation shafts and defensible entrances. The scale invites speculation about what danger required such an extensive refuge. Some propose it was protection from ancient nuclear warfare or a forgotten global catastrophe. Others connect it to myths of hidden subterranean civilizations. Archaeological interpretation links it to protection during invasions and periods of instability. The geology of Cappadocia makes excavation practical, and similar underground settlements exist in the region. What remains uncertain is the full construction timeline and the maximum population it once sustained. Beneath the Giza plateau in Egypt, modern scanning technologies have detected subsurface anomalies and voids. Reports of unexplored spaces beneath or near the Great Pyramid reignite one of history's most persistent mysteries. The most famous alternative theory is the Hall of Records, a legendary archive said to contain lost knowledge of an advanced civilization. Some claim excavation is suppressed to prevent a revolutionary discovery. Geophysical surveys show that anomalies can represent natural cavities, structural voids, or ordinary architectural features. Excavation at Giza is tightly regulated to preserve fragile monuments and protect cultural heritage. No verified discovery of hidden archives or lost libraries has been confirmed. What remains uncertain is the precise nature of certain detected voids, which require careful study before firm conclusions can be drawn. A Viking coin turning up in Maine sounds like the kind of find that should rewrite history. That is why this small silver penny has become one of the most discussed out-of-place artifacts in North America. The alternative theory is that it proves direct Norse contact deeper into the American mainland, and some people believe finds like this are treated too cautiously because they complicate accepted history. The strongest evidence begins with the coin itself, which is widely accepted as genuine and linked to the reign of Olaf the Peaceful in medieval Norway. The more likely explanation is that the coin moved through long indigenous trade networks, rather than arriving through a Viking settlement in Maine itself. That matters because a traded object can travel a very long distance without proving a colony or expedition at the final site. What is confirmed fact is that the coin is real and that its reported discovery in 1957 AD made it an immediate ancient artifacts mystery. What remains debated is whether it reflects direct Norse contact, exchanged through trade, or a later intrusion into the site. A hammer sealed inside a hard, stone-like casing sounds impossible at first hearing. That is exactly why the London hammer became one of the best-known controversial artifacts in history. The alternative theory says it is evidence of lost ancient technology, or even proof that advanced toolmaking existed in a forgotten age. The strongest evidence points in a less dramatic direction. Researchers have long noted that the hammer resembles a relatively ordinary 19th century mining or workshop tool, not an object with unusual design or unknown engineering. The casing around it is also important because mineral concretions can form around modern objects and later appear far older than they really are. In other words, the mystery may be geological rather than historical. What is confirmed fact is that the hammer exists and that it became enclosed in a hardened deposit. What remains uncertain is the exact formation process and the incomplete discovery record that helped turn it into one of the most repeated ancient technology mysteries. A wooden object from ancient Egypt that resembles a glider is always going to attract attention. The Saqqara Bird has therefore become a regular feature in discussions of ancient engineering, mysterious ancient artifacts, and lost ancient technology. The alternative theory says it preserves real knowledge of flight and that ancient designers understood aerodynamic principles far earlier than we are told. The strongest evidence is more restrained. Modern aerodynamic studies suggest the object does not behave like a practical glider unless major changes are made to it, which weakens the claim that it was a true flying machine. Mainstream researchers usually treat it as a symbolic, decorative, or ceremonial object from around 200 BC. That explanation also fits ancient Egyptian culture, where bird forms had strong religious and artistic meaning. What is confirmed fact is that the object is authentic and genuinely unusual in shape. What remains debated is its exact intended purpose, because unusual design does not always equal advanced technology. An object that looked like a geode but appeared to contain a machine part was always going to become famous. The Coso Artifact is still one of the most cited out-of-place artifacts in debates about ancient civilization mysteries and lost ancient technology. The alternative theory says it is proof of advanced ancient technology, with a manufactured component somehow trapped inside material that looked immensely old. The strongest evidence points instead to a 20th century spark plug. X-ray studies and part comparisons have closely matched the core to a modern spark plug design, while the outer shell is better understood as a concretion rather than a true geode. That changes the whole case, because a modern part covered by mineral buildup is surprising, but not historically impossible. The real lesson here is how easily geological appearance can distort judgment. What is confirmed fact is that the core is man-made and modern in type. What remains uncertain is the full story of how the object moved from discovery into legend, but the likely explanation is far more ordinary than the myth. A jar with metal parts that can produce a small electrical charge sounds like one of the great ancient technology mysteries. That is why the Baghdad Battery remains central to discussions of ancient electricity theory and controversial archaeological finds. The alternative theory says it was an ancient battery used for electroplating, ritual practice, or medicine, and that it hints at lost ancient technology now forgotten. The strongest evidence is more cautious. Replica experiments show that a small voltage can be produced, but archaeologists also point out that there is no clear supporting evidence for a working electrical system around the object. There are no secure wires, no obvious connected devices, and no accepted body of electroplated artifacts that settles the question. Some researchers instead argue that it may have been a container for scrolls or ritual substances. What is confirmed fact is the jar's unusual structure and genuine antiquity. What remains debated is whether it ever had an electrical purpose, or whether the modern word battery has pushed the object into a role it never had. A 16th century map that seems to show surprising geographical knowledge will always invite big claims. The Piri Reis Map is therefore one of the most famous cases in any ancient maps mystery discussion. The alternative theory says it preserves knowledge copied from far older source maps, perhaps from a lost civilization with advanced surveying or seafaring skill. The most dramatic version says it shows Antarctica before the ice, which would imply knowledge far older than accepted history allows. The strongest evidence does not require that conclusion. Notes on the map itself say it was compiled from multiple earlier charts, including materials linked to the age of exploration, and scholars usually interpret the disputed southern landmass as a conventional southern continent rather than Antarctica. Distortion from projection and copying also explains why the map can look far more mysterious than it is. What is confirmed fact is that the map is genuine, historically important, and preserved as a major document of cartographic history. What remains uncertain is exactly which older charts Piri Reis had access to, and how much of their detail has now been lost. A temple carving that looks to modern eyes, like a giant bulb, immediately creates a strong visual mystery. That is why the Dendera light relief remains one of the most famous examples in ancient electricity theory and ancient world discoveries. The alternative theory says the relief records electrical lighting in ancient Egypt and hints at a hidden technical tradition. The strongest evidence for that view is mainly visual resemblance. The strongest historical explanation is symbolic instead. Egyptologists generally interpret the relief as a religious image connected to creation, rebirth, and divine power, with the serpent, lotus, and jed fitting established sacred imagery, rather than an engineered device. No widely accepted supporting machinery has ever been found to confirm an ancient electrical system. That absence matters because extraordinary technology usually leaves more than one clue behind. What is confirmed fact is that the relief is real and visually unusual. What remains debated is whether every layer of its symbolism is fully understood, but the likely explanation is mythological rather than mechanical. Crystal skulls seem almost designed to become legends. They combine striking visual impact with stories about hidden knowledge, ancient civilization mysteries, and controversial artifacts in history. The alternative theory says they are genuine pre-Columbian relics made with lost carving methods or preserved spiritual knowledge. Some versions even suggest institutions quietly changed their position once the implications became too controversial. The strongest evidence points the other way. Scientific examination by major institutions found tool marks and abrasives that match relatively modern carving techniques rather than known ancient Mesoamerican workmanship. Provenance is also a major problem because many of the most famous skulls do not come from secure excavations. That weakens their historical credibility before the material analysis is even considered. What is confirmed fact is that several high-profile crystal skulls are modern creations. What remains uncertain is the full story behind every skull in private circulation, and that lingering uncertainty helps keep the legend alive. A machine from the ancient world with precision gears and astronomical functions sounds almost too advanced to be real. That is why the Antikythera Mechanism stands at the top of so many lists of ancient engineering marvels and mysterious ancient artifacts. The alternative theory says it proves a hidden stream of lost ancient technology, with ancient science reaching levels far beyond what mainstream history admits. What makes this case different is that the device truly is extraordinary, even without any fringe interpretation. Imaging, inscriptions, and reconstruction work show that it tracked astronomical cycles and could predict eclipses with remarkable sophistication. Mainstream scholarship places it within the Hellenistic scientific tradition, not outside it, which means it expands our understanding of the ancient world rather than overturning it completely. In that sense, it is one of the rare cases where the accepted explanation is already astonishing. What is confirmed fact is that advanced precision gearing existed in the ancient Mediterranean by the late 2nd century BC. What remains debated is how common such machines were, who ordered this one, and how much related knowledge disappeared after its time.